Manx Radio's Update with Beth Espey.
Well, first, good evening. Welcome to Friday's update here on Manx Radio. Some of the main news before 5:30. Well, with fuel prices rising and the fallout from the Middle East conflict hitting the headlines, many are wondering how insulated has the Isle of Man really been when it comes to prices at the petrol pumps. Also tonight, the challenges facing Hospice will be the subject of a Keys question on Tuesday. We'll talk to the MHK asking it. A new survey suggests islanders aren't impressed about travel. Most say the cost, reliability and range of destinations by air and sea leave a lot to be desired. We'll hear more about that. And you know what? You know summer is on the way when Manx National Heritage Sites reopen for the season. We'll be hearing about that too. That is all to come here on Manx Radio before 5:30. We'll start though as ever with a roundup of the main news headlines with Amy Fastamai. The majority of people on the Isle of Man aren't satisfied with the cost, reliability or choice of destinations by air or sea, according to a new survey. Less than 20% were happy with the reliability of services as well as the cost of travel off-island. The Health and Social Care Minister will make a statement in the House of Keys next week regarding Hospice Isle of Man's funding. The charity is making redundancies and service cuts due to financial difficulties and is now calling for additional government support. The price of fuel and oil on the Isle of Man could rise this weekend. Earlier this week, the Chief Minister warned we'd see significant increases amid the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. Tim Glover is the chair of the Office for Fair Trading.
It's impossible really to be concrete about this, isn't it? Because we don't know how long this conflict's going to go on for. But I think prepare yourself for the autumn and the winter time.
Gandhi Circus has cancelled both its shows on Sunday because of forecast high winds. A spokesperson told Manx Radio they can't have customers inside the tent during winds over 50 miles an hour. Manx National Heritage has reopened a number of its sites, marking the beginning of the season. This year will also see the introduction of new visitor hubs in Castletown and Laxey. Pauline Wall is the head of operations.
We're talking much more about how we work to conserve those artefacts and the buildings and the historic sites as much as we possibly can.
Turning to international news now, and President Donald Trump's extending the pause on his threat to bomb Iranian infrastructure for a further 10 days. Meanwhile, Israel's defense minister says they're going to escalate their assault on the country. Asda bosses say some petrol pumps are experiencing temporary shortages because of the war in Iran. Prices have surged above 150p a litre. And some good news for a Friday. A whale that was stranded for days in shallow water at a Baltic Sea resort in Germany has swum free. Rescuers used an excavator to dig an escape channel overnight. Those are your headlines. I'll be back with the news in full at 6.
Thank you very much indeed, Amy. Now the weather brought to you by Manx Glass and Glazing. So there is a risk of a few further showers this evening, which then clear to be largely dry overnight. Fresh winds, they'll increase to become strong. Minimum temperatures around 4 for most places. A cold start tomorrow. Blustery showers, those could be heavy at times. They will turn wintry over the hills as well. Those showers will tend to become isolated later in the day. Strong and gusty west or northwest winds. Top temperatures tomorrow 9. And just looking ahead to Sunday, it'll be a dry start, but it will turn wet and windy. That rain will be heavy at times. A strong wind as well, and there will be hill fog too. So something to look forward to, eh?
If you're looking for supply-only double or triple glazed units, make sure you visit the Manx Glass and Glazing showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate or call 674 573.
You're listening to Update here on Manx Radio. It's coming up to 5:05. Been talking a lot about petrol prices then today. Don't know if you spotted any of the prices going up at pumps around the island yet. We should have a clearer idea of how much petrol and oil prices will be over the weekend. Earlier this week, the Chief Minister warned we could see significant increases amid the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. But why have we been fairly sheltered from those price hikes so far? Well, Tim Glover, MHK, is chair of the Office of Fair Trading, and he's been talking to Amy.
OFT's not that involved, apart from obviously dealing with customers. And we've had a handful so far, not a great number. And they've been in contact complaining about the fact that they'd rung their oil supplier to arrange a delivery on a future date, but at today's prices. that's obviously not possible. For the oil companies themselves don't know what the prices are going to be at that time of the delivery. I think it's worth just explaining how we get our petrol and oil here, because people will have seen across that prices are fluctuating on a daily basis. That doesn't happen here because every 3 or 4 weeks we get ships that come in and deliver our supplies. So whatever the price is at that time is what we're going to be passed on through their charges at that time of the boat actually being filled. So that's why we have had relatively stable petrol prices throughout this period of the Middle East conflict so far, but we have got deliveries coming in this week. We will see significant increases in the coming days. The OFT's involvement, we're obviously maintaining that dialogue with the energy suppliers, particularly of road and fuel and heating oil. So we are involved in some contingency planning that you would rightfully expect was going on, but that's just all in the background. But the main thing to say is that supply routes are secure, so there's no need to go out and panic buy, but there is likely to be, maybe on a 3 to 4 weekly basis, a change in prices.
That's Tim Glover, MHK of the Office of Fair Trading over here. And we have spoken to government this afternoon, and they reiterated the message: there is no issue with supply over here. So something to bear in mind. 6 minutes past 5. Well, yesterday we heard the news that Hospice Isle of Man is going to be making a number of redundancies and service changes as well amid increasing financial difficulties. And we know now that the Health and Social Care Minister will make a statement in the House of Keys on Tuesday regarding Hospice Isle of Man's funding. The charity is asking for further government support and says it will be launching a campaign in May. Well, Ramsey MHK Dr Alex Allinson says the challenges facing hospice have been known about for some time, and he'll be asking the Minister a question about this in Keys next week. He told Lewis that increasing funding for hospice hasn't been the top of Manx Care's priorities as it grapples with its own budget and service delivery.
I'm shocked, to be honest with you, that this week members of staff who've dedicated their lives to palliative care and serving our community have been offered voluntary redundancy and told that if that's not enough, there may be forced redundancies coming up. What Hospice are proposing to bring them back into budget is not only a reduction of services, but a cutting of very key experienced staff. And I'm incredibly upset personally that this has happened, because I know members of the hospice staff, and my wife also works there. The question was tabled before this announcement and was really trying to look at whether there had been a review of the budget, of the funding for hospice, because in the mandate that's coming forward by the department and the operating plan, they really put an emphasis on community services. They put an emphasis on making palliative care better for the island, but that costs money. And so it's looking at whether there has been that review, given that over a year ago, government were told that there was a funding issue there, because while costs have gone up, the government subsidy going in has gone up by inflation. That's been outstripped by the increased costs. And also they have shown that the amount of money they can raise as a charity has reduced. We know the economics of the Isle of Man. We know that a lot of charities have faced reduced donations for a whole range of reasons, partly because of the cost of living problems on our island. And Hospice has always managed to get the right number of funds. They've built up reserves, but now that is unsustainable. So we need to look again and review that funding model to make sure that the services the Hospice provides can be there for the future.
Hospice has said it will be beginning this campaign in May, calling for a more equitable funding model. Will you be supporting that campaign?
I will be. And again, people might criticise me as being the previous Treasury Minister. Why didn't I do more when I was in the job? The separation we have between operations with Manx Care and the department giving the money is very clear. The department should be setting the priorities for where public money should be spent by Manx Care. And so my question is asking that the Minister whether they have reviewed the amount of money going into palliative care. A vast majority of that in the community is provided by Hospice.
That's Dr Alex Allinson there. We'll, of course, bring you the latest on this when we hear more in the House of Keys on Tuesday. In the meantime, you can find more details and that full statement from Hospice that we heard yesterday and from Manx Care and the DHSC at manxradio.com. Now, the directors of Man Music say there's a general feeling in Peel that things don't happen in the town, and why that is unclear. Business owners Laura and David Rolls say concerns about the proposed beach stage hadn't been raised by Peel commissioners until this Wednesday, when the clerk called to pass on comments from the board. The pair suggest the idea to Commissioner Katrina Baptist, and the shop is partnering with the local authority for the trial of the stage, as well as helping to organise some of the acts. Local Democracy reporter Emma Draper has been talking to Mr and Mrs Rolls.
The licence application needs to be in by the 2nd of April, so we've still got time. I've been working to put together all the proposals and get all the necessary paperwork together. I've been in conversation with the fire service. I'm hopefully going to talk to the police soon to see what their concerns would be and what processes we'd have to have in place to make them happy. But as this is got to be in concert with the Peel commissioners, I obviously need a letter saying that they're happy for me to act on their behalf through the licensing courts for this to go ahead.
And we don't have that at the minute. Stuart and Katrina have both been absolutely brilliant and fantastic to work with.
Yeah, it is important to note that it's not just Katrina. Stuart has been supportive and helped us out a lot as well.
I think Peel as a whole had concerns over the commissioners and how things are done or not done. And I think there's a general feeling in the town that things don't happen in Peel that happen in other places, and why that is not clear. So I think there needs to be serious questions asked of the commissioners and the town hall about the processes that they have in place. And we have definitely been frustrated by the lack of communication from the town hall. It should have been simple, but it's not been at all.
That was Laura and David Rolls from Man Music talking about that ongoing situation regarding Peel commissioners and plans for a stage on the beach. This is a story that has evolved all week. I should say at this point we have invited the chair and the clerk of Peel commissioners in for interview. That has not been taken up as yet, but you can find a full rundown of everything that's been happening on the Manx Radio website in our features and analysis section. It's 11 and a half minutes past 5. Well, we talked about this yesterday. This is about the Northern Civic Amenities site and the amounts that local authorities are being charged to use it. Now, Lezayre commissioners have responded to what they call an imbalance in a Facebook post from Bride commissioners over those proposed charges. Simon's been looking at this again and joins me now. Simon, then, what are Lezayre saying about this?
Well, Beth, you'll remember yesterday we reported that Bride was angry that their expected contribution to the Northern Civic Amenity site was over £111,000, which they pointed out was around double what Andreas and Lezayre have been quoted and 3 times more than Derby, Ballaugh and Macclesfield. Well, in response, Chair of Lezayre Commissioners Carl Brew says each local authority's share of the cost continues to be based on rateable values, as no other viable alternative has been offered. Mr Brew says Bride still enjoys a very significant income via business rates from the gravel pits in their parish, and that in previous years Bride has easily been able to cover its rateable contribution to the amenity site and still hold its rates as the lowest on the island. The Lezayre chair says none of the other northern parishes have such an income and have to rely almost totally on raising residential rates to pay their share.
Well, Bride commissioners clearly still feel aggrieved by this whole process. Have we been able to speak to someone from there yet?
Well, yes, I caught up a little earlier, Beth, with Mr Ivan Burton, who's the board's representative with responsibility for the utility site. He emphatically rejects that Bride have at any time been unreasonable in negotiations, but have simply sought a fair, just and proportionate solution to the payment structure. He concedes that the board gets a significant income from the gravel pits, but this in turn, he says, inflates the rateable value of the parish. Mr Burton says the solution is not simply a case of Bride raising their rates, as has been suggested, because a sharp rise in charges to companies operating what is an important national resource could make their operations no longer viable. He says the system for refuse collection services in the north, where parishes pay a sum based on the number of households, is much fairer than that applied to the amenity site, which goes on rateable value.
So it's a complicated one, isn't it? Where does it leave us then?
Well, there's a meeting scheduled for Monday to confirm that the northern parishes, including Bride and Ramsey Town commissioners, are to form a board to oversee the operation of the site. However, from what we've heard, we're no nearer bridging the impasse.
Simon, thank you very much indeed. It is coming up to 5:15 now.
Manx Radio Travel, serviced by Quayside Tyres.
Well, nothing to report specifically on the police pages, but something to look out for tomorrow. A section of the Sulby Strait is going to be closed to all traffic and pedestrians for several hours over the weekend. It's for tree felling works. So the road will be shut from the junction with the A14 Sulby Glen Road for a distance of 210 metres in a northerly direction. So that'll be between 9 and 4 on Saturday and Sunday. There will be diversions in place. Emergency service vehicles and personnel obviously exempt from that closure. Otherwise, it's the usual things that we're kind of used to seeing now round and about. And just looking down at the airport, everything okay pretty much down there. The Manxman is just taking a turn off Douglas Bay at the moment and is scheduled to head out for Heysham at 7:15.
For the latest wheel alignment which saves tyre wear, Quayside Tyres and Service Centre. Get more with
Quayside 664417.
Head to Quayside Tyres and Service Centre on South Quay Industrial Estate.
Quayside.
You're listening to Update here on Manx Radio. The majority of people on the Isle of Man are not satisfied with the cost, reliability or choice of destinations by air or sea. So this is according to a new survey. It's been published by Island Global Research, and Amy has more details.
There were 756 people from the island who took part in the survey, which was also carried out in Jersey and Guernsey. It found less than 20% were satisfied with the reliability of services as well as the cost of travel off island. Respondents also said they didn't have a lot of confidence in future travel links, with only 1 in 5 feeling confident they'll meet the needs of residents, tourists and businesses. There was also a notable drop in satisfaction in all aspects of off-island travel links since the last survey in 2019. The Isle of Man airports responded to some of the findings. It says the cost of travel remains closely linked to wider economic factors. It's also acknowledged that there continues to be some residual impact from the challenges experienced across the aviation sector in 2023. However, the spokesperson says perception versus reality remains an important consideration, insisting performance has improved significantly. It also recognises there's more to be done around routes and connectivity, insisting it's committed to supporting the development of new routes and increasing the frequency of existing services. Work is said to be ongoing with the Department for Enterprise and political representatives to drive progress in this area, and government remains optimistic about opportunities for sustainable growth. Meanwhile, a spokesperson from the Isle of Man Steam Packet says reliability, affordability and choice of routes remain vitally important concerns for residents and businesses across the island. It adds it's dedicated to making improvements across all areas of the business based on the feedback of customers and island residents provided through regular surveys, the company's Trustpilot account and other sources.
Amy Griffiths reporting there. Again, you can find that full story and the statements on the Manx Radio website. Well, 3 cousins on the Isle of Man are set to run 5 laps of the mountain course over 5 days, and they're raising money for the Great North Air Ambulance. Danny, Josh and Sean will take on the feat in support of their cousin Jordan, who lost his life 2 years ago. Danny, Sean and Savina, Jordan's mum, and Jade, Jordan's sister, have been talking to Darren Timpson.
It's out there just like Jordan was, so I think something like this needed to be done for him. It's like we couldn't just do something small, it had to be big.
Jordan had a massive energy, a massive presence really, so he'd be absolutely buzzing off what they're doing, and they're doing it for him, and he would do anything for them, so it is reciprocated really. And again, the love and the support all around, that was what Jordan was all about, bringing people together, and this is bringing people together.
Obviously, you're raising money for the Great North Air Ambulance Service. I saw just before you came in that you're about over £6,000 of your £10,000 target. What does that mean to you?
It's amazing.
Pressure.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's amazing. It's quite humbling, really, to see. There's big donations on there. There's it's so generous, but also we know that there's kids saving their pocket money.
£5 here and there, and it just makes a huge difference.
Which is just absolutely amazing.
It's a beautiful community, and Jordan was very well loved in the Isle of Man, and we've seen that when Jordan died, and everyone with messages and pictures that would go all over Facebook, and as soon as this was announced, everyone showed so much support.
Obviously, doing 37 miles would be a pretty tough ask for anyone, but you're going to be doing it 5 times over. How do you prepare for a challenge like that? How have you been preparing?
Just get the miles in. I don't think you can prepare for something like this, to be fair. I think you just need to be getting the miles in. As long as you've got a fitness base there, then it's upstairs really. It's you just mentally, you've just got to try and just crack on and just be at the start line every day and get yourself around. Whether it's run, walk, we're going to have to walk some, but we'll get round for the 5 days.
And how long have you been training for, I guess?
We're all three of us have all been into fitness. We're all pretty much, Daniel and myself, are distance runners. Daniel do the trail running, I do road running. So we've always done high mileage really each week anyway. And like Danny's just said there, I think obviously a level of fitness you need, but on something like this, it's going to be mental strength as well.
That was Danny, Sean, Savina and Jade talking to Darren there. The cousins beginning the challenge on Sunday and it runs until Thursday. Get it? And Jade and Jordan's dad, Mark, will also take part in the final mile next week. Just a reminder that if you are due to go and see Gandhi's Circus on Sunday, it has cancelled both of its shows. That's because of the high winds that are forecast. They can't have people inside the tent if there are winds over 50 miles an hour. If you have booked to attend the show on Sunday, you can rearrange and attend those taking place tonight or tomorrow instead. The number is 078 78 22 8403, or you can find it on our website. Well, Manx National Heritage has reopened a number of its sites across the Isle of Man today as the 2026 season gets underway. Visitors have been welcomed back to Peel Castle, Castle Rushen and the Great Laxey Wheel, among other iconic locations. And many of these sites have undertaken repairs over the winter, and there are new additions coming this summer in the form of visitor hubs in Castletown and Laxey. Pauline Wall is the head of operations for M&H.
What we're trying to do there is really help visitors understand the work that we do as a charity. So there'll be lots of interpretation and interesting information about our sites at those sites at Laxey and indeed in Castletown, so that the visitors can engage with that with us as a charity and really understand what we're trying to do in the conservation and protection of our cultural heritage. Obviously there'll be purchasing of tickets and that kind of thing, interacting with our teams, and also some retail as well. Of course, that retail helps us support the charity going forward and is a really integral part of what we do.
You mentioned the conservation sites and how important it will be for visitors to get a bit of a better understanding. Do you think that's something I suppose not many people really realise, is that how much work actually gets undertaken for all of these sites?
Absolutely, and it's always something that we work hard to try and share that information. Residents here on the island will have noted that there are banners going up at sites where we're doing conservation in action, and we're talking much more about how we work to conserve those artefacts and the buildings and the historic sites as much as we possibly can. We want to engage more with our supporters on that, in the sense that we want to tell those stories and make sure that people are aware of that kind of work. It's a huge part of what we do. We're not just a visitor attraction, we are conserving and protecting, and we need to engage people with that process.
That is Pauline Wall, who's the head of operations for Manx National Heritage. Had a mixed day, I suppose, weather-wise today for the first day. Fingers crossed it's going to get a little bit better. FC Isle of Man, they're back in action at the Bowl tomorrow night for their penultimate home game of the 25-26 NWCFL Premier Division season. They face a City of Liverpool side who could be relegated on Saturday if they lose to the Ravens and if other results don't go their way. Well, speaking to FC Isle of Man's club media, the Manx side's caretaker manager Rick Holden was really happy with his team's performance last weekend despite a 2-1 home loss to Cheadle Town. And this Saturday, he says his side will have to put in a good performance to avoid an upset.
I mean, look, they've shipped 120 odd goals. We've got to go and attack them. We just can't afford to do something stupid, and let them into the game. We've got to go out there for the remaining games and give a really good account of ourselves or themselves. What else can we do but put a show on? So it'll be the same way as we've approached the last game. So I'm looking forward to it. It's just frustrating, that's all. What can you do about it? You just try to say to them that, you're not doing. Keep going and re-motivate yourselves for this game. We can't go into it thinking that these are easy, because they'll have some pride about them. Of course they'll want to come here and put on a good show themselves. But we've got to go out there and play, like you say, a really good performance. It's probably the best performance I've seen where we've lost, and with the circs of the 10 men,
So that is Rick Holden. That game tomorrow night at the Bowl, kicking off at 6 p.m. and Manx Radio, as ever, bringing you full live match commentary on DAB and AM 1368. Sport here, an update brought to you by the Print Shed, and Rob will be the one shouting tomorrow.
Fast am I. Well, first off this evening, the team propping up the Canada Life Men's Premier League table host the league leaders during this weekend's upcoming Isle of Man football action. Currently 10 points from safety, but with a number of games in hand, Foxdale will welcome a Corinthians side hoping to maintain a 5-point gap at the summit during Saturday's ties. Continuing to lurk behind Corinthians, though, are Peel in second, who have 3 games in hand on their title rivals, with the Westerners targeting maximum points at home to St John's United tomorrow. And elsewhere, Ardern and Druggen Limited Division 2 frontrunners Colby are on a rest week, which will hand Castletown the chance to move to within 7 points of their southern rivals on Saturday when they head to Maloo. And on Sunday, attention in women's football on Ireland turns to the Canada Life Women's FA Cup with a double header of first round ties on the cards. Those clashes will see Onken welcome current Canada Life Women's League leaders Peel, whilst defending FA Cup champions Corinthians are on the road at Union Mills. Full details of this weekend's Isle of Man football fixtures at manxradio.com. Elsewhere, and in rugby, it looks like it could be now or never for Douglas this weekend in their hunt for a playoff place in Regional 2 North West. Phil Kringle's side need to target big points when they host West Park St Helens at Portachee tomorrow afternoon, with the Islanders sitting 6th in the table, 1 place outside the playoffs. Also on Saturday, both Vagabonds and Ramsey are on the road in Counties 3, ADM Lancashire and Cheshire's Minor Conference League. They'll face Ormskirk and Conan Nelson respectively. Vagabonds ladies are also in action too tomorrow. They're on the travels at Macclesfield in women's NC2 North South. And separately, there's also a Hartford Homes Manx Shield meeting between Southern Nomads and Douglas Celts tomorrow at Ballykillia Park, with kick-off for that one at 2:15pm. And in hockey, no fewer than 4 league titles remain there for the taking as tomorrow marks the finale to the 2026 Isle of Man Hockey League season. The Ladies Premier League, Ladies Division 1, Men's Division 2 and Ladies Division 2 crowns must all be decided during Saturday's matches. Fixtures get underway from 11am across the island tomorrow, and full details of those are available on our website.
Rob, thank you very much indeed. He's going to hot-foot it. You should see how quickly he goes to the other studio, because he's going to be bringing you Friday Sport Preview with all the details of what's happening. Oh, I think he's just fallen over. I'm joking, he's fine. So that is coming up next after Update. Just a comment here. We were talking about the issue in Peel Commissioners, which has been unfolding this week. Andy says, isn't the silence and no reply to Manx Radio's invite to the chair and the clerk of Peel Commissioners speaking for itself? As I said, you can read all about that on the Manx Radio website. After Rob this evening, Greatest Hits will be here at 6:30. That's with Chris Kinley. At 9, it's Sweet and Swing with Howard Kane. If you can't listen to the programme, you can also find it as a podcast shortly after broadcast. And at 10, Ree will be here with After Hours. So whatever you're doing this weekend, have a good one. Keep an eye on the weather. We'll let you know of any travel disruption or anything like that, especially winds looking a little bit high on Sunday. But Update will be back with you on Monday at 5.